one person who knows his own mind and whose free speech will not be curbed in any way by this station is Richard Tice MP. He is the Deputy Leader of Reform UK. He joins me now on all of these big issues. Richard, it's great to have you on the programme. Let me just start with this whole aspect of non-crime hate incidents and the fact that a journalist had police calling at her door last Sunday, and now 3 police forces are involved. A gold command has been set up. That's usually, I used to cover riots in Northern Ireland when I was a reporter there. They had gold command for that sort of thing, for really, really big policing events. This is just absurd, Richard. Where do you even start?
Good afternoon, Pete. It's hard to know, but to answer your simple question, is this the death of free speech? I think free speech in the United Kingdom is on life support. And I think we are approaching the moment where someone dreadful pulls out the cord of the life support machine and then free speech dies. So we actually need to act incredibly robustly in order to ensure that we get a new surgeon to come in and basically save the patient of free speech. That's where it's at. I'm not sure at the moment whether I'm living in the democracy of the United Kingdom or Kia's state of North Korea, because everybody now is basically semi-terrified, including journalists like Alison Pearson, who I spoke to yesterday. And she's a brilliant, fantastic writer and journalist. But, you know, when you get a knock on the door from the police on a Sunday morning, you do sort of think the worst. Either someone close to you is dead or you're about to be arrested. And
in fairness, she hasn't been arrested, and I wonder if people will say
she hasn't been, but it's actually the perception of fear and terror that is deliberately being used by the authorities to suppress debate about important but sometimes difficult and uncomfortable issues. And this is what is going on. And this government is right at the heart of this. It is deliberately suppressing debate about immigration, suppressing any discussion in and around Southport, trying to avoid discussing anything to do with Manchester Airport, and so on and so on. And these non-crime hate incidents are being used by the police leadership, I should say, not by the frontline officers, who obviously have to do what they're ordered to do by their bosses. And it's very, very frightening. I'm very clear what should happen. The whole of this non-crime hate incident should be scrapped, stuck in the bin, and the bin locked and thrown in the landfill. It is not necessary. It's an outrage, and it's got to go.
You talked there about it being like North Korea. Boris Johnson has talked about it being like the Soviet Union at its worst. I mean, it's not, is it? I mean, North Korea is literally where people get sent to death camps and work to death and enslaved. And the Soviet Union, people were...
And Peter, we've literally had people put in jail in the United Kingdom for a tweet. Might have been unwise, might have been
some of them were inciting violence, Richard. Some of them were inciting violence, Richard, and that is a crime. I mean,
some of them weren't, and they've still gone to jail, and that is totally unacceptable. So it's as simple as that.
So how do we deal with this, Richard? Because we've got the Free Speech Union talking about taking the Home Secretary to court. Does Labour care about free speech? They say they do.
Oh, I don't think that Labour want free speech at all. Of course they say they do. They have to say that. But all of their actions show exactly the opposite. And there's information that's come to me that we'll be talking about next week, which clearly indicates that they want to suppress all forms of criticism, legitimate criticism or debate. Look, no one wants to support frontline police officers more than us at Reform. But where the leadership gets it wrong, then, like in all walks of life, we all make mistakes. We all mess up occasionally. Much better to say, I'm so sorry, chaps. I've got this wrong. I'll learn the lesson. We'll sort it. In this case, the Chief Constable of Essex Police needs basically to say to Alison Pearson, we've got this wrong. I'm sorry. Here's a fulsome apology. We'll learn from it and it won't happen again. Instead, what's actually happening is they're in a hole, and rather than apologise, they're keeping on digging, and they've set up a gold command, which, as you know, is basically used for a very serious incident, stroke murder, stroke terrorism. This is a tweet right? They haven't actually confirmed which tweet it is, but we know which one it is. There's nothing insightful, there's nothing violent, there's nothing racist in the tweet in question. It's an absolute outrage. And frankly, unless the Chief Constable apologises very, very quickly, the Police and Crime Commissioner in Essex need to get off their backside and fire the Chief Constable.
Can I ask you about another politician, actually, a politician in the House of Lords, Ian Austin, an indefatigable campaigner against anti-Semitism. He spoke out about what was happening in the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. He's a very brave man, a bit of a hero of mine, to be honest. We hope to speak to him on the programme tomorrow at some stage. He sent a tweet out which referred to Hamas as Islamists. I mean, that is a fact. They are Islamists, yet he was investigated by the police for that.
It's extraordinary. You're quite right. Hamas are Islamists. They're a prescribed terror organisation in this country. And for the police not to understand that shows, frankly, just how clueless they are. It's truly shocking. I can also reveal that a Tory MP was essentially taken to the police station to discuss a tweet and held for hours in a cell, was so appalled and shamed, he didn't even dare tell his wife for years. This is an incident that happened a couple of years ago, and I'm not able to say who it is, but this is what's going on. People are being terrified. And if one is not brave enough to actually stand up and say, enough, this has got to stop, then the police will continue in this campaign of suppression of free speech because of what their chief constables and ultimately what the Home Office are requiring of them.
Richard, thank you very much. That's Richard Tice there, who is the Deputy Leader of Reform UK. He's the MP for Boston and Skegness.